I, 26 female, knew my sister's husband, 29 male, before she, 29 female, did. The husband, Max, and I worked together 8 years ago, and I thought he and my sister Mary would hit it off, so I introduced them. They've been together 6 years, married 3 of those, and they have a little girl who is 2, Maggie, my niece, who I adore. Over the course of the first lockdown, I lost both my husband and my job. Max and Mary let me stay with them for 3 months, during which I took care of Maggie while Max and Mary were working. I then got a job, came into some money, and moved out. Edit. I had moved out by July 2020. My new schedule has me busy Saturday through Monday, so Mary asked me if I could keep helping out with Maggie on Tuesday through Friday. Max insisted on paying me. Mary has gone back to working in person, while Max is able to work from home. But a lot of it is meetings, so he can't take care of Maggie despite being at home. So I'm still nannying for them. Mary started acting weird when she went back to work. She commented a few times if I looked messy or flushed, and I'd be like, "I've been chasing a toddler around all day." And she would just nod. But looking back now, the implication is clear. I cooked dinner a few times, and the last time she snapped at me that she could cook for her family, and I took the hint and never did that again. I also thought things with her and Max got tense, but it wasn't my marriage, so I didn't want to butt in. Though I did tell them both that as Mary's sister and Max's friend, if they needed to talk, I was here. I'm pregnant. Mary has asked for a DNA test because she thinks that Max could be the father. I've agreed because Max and I are just friends. But if Mary is desperate enough to ask, then I figure she needs this. Max is upset, but agrees with me that if she has to ask, the test is warranted. We've booked it, but it hasn't been done yet. And in the meantime, Mary has said that she wants Max out. Max protested, but she insisted. So now Max is staying with me, which is probably the worst route we could have taken. But Max has no other options. No family in the area, friends siding with Mary, asked to leave at short notice. Mary is now even more convinced. We just want things back how they were. Max wants his wife, and I want my sister. But Mary is not listening to any reason. We're growing concerned about her. We don't think there are any mental health issues, or that Maggie is unsafe with Mary. But Mary's sudden and certain conclusions that we've had an affair has come, from our perspective, completely out of left field. And she's kicked Max out and kept him for Maggie over it, without having any proof. We're just worried about her, but we don't know how to address it without her accusing us of something. How do we get things back to normal? Edit. I don't know who the father is. I told her it was a one-night stand, which it was. I stayed with them for 3 months, from April through July 2020, and I'm 4 months pregnant. So I got pregnant long after I moved out. I get weird vibes from this post. It's not that I think y'all are having an affair, but the way you talked about him, it gives me the feeling there could have been some crossed boundaries. Max shouldn't be staying with you, though, if you honestly want things to get better. That's a terrible idea. Haha. My mom and dad divorced when I was very young, and he took my older brothers with him. He married my stepmom soon after, and they had 2 more kids. I'm not going to lie, I always felt he preferred them, and resented him for it. My mom, on the other hand, worked herself to the bone to give me a good life, sacrificed so much to give me the best education possible, and invested in my potential and future. Because she spent so much to give me a good life, my dad helped here and there, but never happily. She was never able to buy a house and always lived on rent. Against all expectations, except for my mom, I actually ended up living a fairly financially comfortable life. So I bought my mom a house. I saved for a while, and even though it's not the biggest, it's in a good neighborhood, big backyard, and enough space for the 2 of us. My mom was so happy, guys. She made this big post on Facebook, thanking me and saying she was so proud and everything. My dad then called me and, in a joking tone, asked, "Well, where is mine?" Which was awkward. He kept implying I was going to buy him a house too and whatnot, until I basically said it wasn't going to happen. He has a house. It's my stepmother, actually. It's a good one too, and to be frank, he has another 4 kids to share the cost of a new house. I don't see how I should be the one to buy 2 houses. He stopped talking to me. My brothers keep saying it was unfair to not give him anything, that I clearly preferred my mom, and the rest of the family is saying this too. I don't even have the money to buy another house, and I actually wanted to buy a house for myself, you know. And he does have a house. I just don't want my mom to keep worrying about rent and to have her own place. How can I make them understand the situation is different? Just tell him it's your house and you live in it, and it's also your mother's house as she lives in it. He doesn't live there. He has his own house. If he wants a house, he can go buy one. He didn't work his arse off to provide for you. Your mom did. Your dad is playing victim. Weak as piss. If he is too stupid to understand, that's his problem. It has nothing to do with anyone. Buy what you want for whoever you want. If your brothers care so much, tell them to buy him a house. When I was about 9 years old, I realized my mom was having an affair for years on my military dad. I did not say anything, as I was really worried what would happen if I said anything. When I was about 12 years old, I found my dad looking at pictures of our family and tearing up, and I couldn't take it, and I told him about mom's affair. Fast forward 5 years, and I live full-time with dad and his new wife and stepsister, and our lives have improved so much since leaving mom. Well, Grandpa on dad's side has been pressuring my dad to get a paternity test, as he wants to make sure that I am his granddaughter. This is getting really intense, as Grandpa may pass away soon, and he says he doesn't know if he should leave us anything if he doesn't even know. Well, my dad has resisted this for years, and saying it doesn't matter. But now things have changed, as I have half-siblings on the way. I am totally happy and fine with this, but for some reason, my dad has started to change his mind about the paternity DNA test thing. He says he is worried that I won't receive help with my college or anything. But I'm worried he is wondering if he should care about me or just my new sibling. I am not sure how much money my grandpa has, but he does have a big house and a lot of property, so I guess it's important. I would rather just continue with our relationship how it is, but I don't know what to do now, and I haven't been able to sleep over this. What do you think I should do? There's nothing you can do. This is your father's decision. It sounds to me as though your father didn't care about the test and loves you unconditionally. It sounds like your grandfather, on the other hand, may have some other dated notions. Sit down with your father and tell him exactly what is on your mind. My daughter is biracial and looks a lot more like my spouse's side than me. So sometimes we've gotten looks and generated some confusion, but there's never been any real drama before now. She's free, and we were in a store that she loves. When it was time to go, she wasn't having it and refused to move. Kept pulling away when I tried to grab her hand, crying, whining, etc. Thankfully, it wasn't a full-blown fallout tantrum, but I hate being that parent, so I wanted to get her out before it escalated. That's when an employee, a woman who I would guess was in her late 40s, approached us and said, "Hi, is this your child?" I said yes. My daughter wasn't paying her much attention and still crying and pulling. That's when the woman goes, "Do you have a picture of her in your phone or wallet that you can show me?" I was a little taken aback and said, "Excuse me?" And she said that would prove she was actually my child. Now, that's when I went full on, "Let me speak to your manager," because I felt like this was going too far for my comfort. She looked uncomfortable and tried to keep talking, but I cut her off and said again that I wanted the manager. Finally, she brought him over. I explained what had happened, and he apologized for the confusion. Ironically enough, I got one of those auto messages that day asking me to fill out a survey on my experience at the store. Because I rated all the questions as 1, lowest score, the survey invited me to send a follow-up email. And I ended up emailing corporate the whole story with the name that had been on the employee's name tag and the store number. Eventually, I got a follow-up email. While it didn't say the employee had been fired per se, it did say at one point, "This person is no longer employed by store." So either she was fired or quit. Also, in case it matters, I'm a city council member and do a lot of philanthropic work in my community. And that information would show up if anyone Googled my name or email address. So I don't know if that played a role in what happened with regard to what happened with the woman's job either. Am I the a-hole? I'm giving you a yes, the a-hole. Not for anything that happened in the store, but for bringing it up in the survey. When you left the store, the issue was resolved. You had brought the manager's attention to the employee's actions, and the manager had stepped in to correct the employee. It's possible that the manager fired the employee at this point, but it's more likely that he trained her in the appropriate behavior for this situation. This is the best outcome for everybody. You and other customers won't be hassled again. The employee keeps her job, and the manager knows that the employee won't make this mistake again. But by filling out that survey the way you did, you directed the baleful gaze of corporate towards this employee, quite possibly causing her termination. Escalating the situation like this may have made you feel better, but it was unnecessary and didn't improve the outcome for anyone. That's an a-hole move, my friend. My 26 female husband, 31 male, got drunk last night and started making some very off-color jokes at my sister, 18 female, and it culminated in him slapping her butt in front of me and my sister's boyfriend, 20 male. Now, understandably, my sister is extremely uncomfortable around my husband, and she had to physically restrain her boyfriend from bashing my husband's face in. Now, all of us live in my father's 56 male house. My sister said she no longer feels comfortable living in the same house as my husband, and it's either him or her. Well, obviously, my mother demanded that my father kick my husband out, and if she comes to visit and my husband is still here, she will call the police on him for harassment, she said. My father then got very upset at my mother, as he and she have been divorced for 15 years, and he detests that she continues to try to call the shots in his house. He had a talk with my husband and told him that if anything like this happened again, he would be out on his butt. My husband then called my mom in an attempt to smooth things over, and she said that it is not up to her, it is up to my sister, and I agree. Which brings us to now. My sister just got home from her boyfriend's mother's house, and upon seeing my husband still here, began packing her bags. My husband is trying to talk to her, but she refuses to speak to him. I don't know what to do. I agree that what he did crossed a line, and I had warned him multiple times before that when he is drunk, he behaves inappropriately, but he never saw it as a big deal. I also know that a lot of this reaction is driven by my sister's boyfriend, who is now not comfortable with them being together without him around. I can attest to the fact that we have all three lived together multiple times, and this is the first time something even remotely inappropriate has happened. And even when she was younger, he would take care and worry about her as an older brother would, telling boyfriends not to hurt her and giving her advice when asked. He would even stay up nights when she would go out with guys to make sure she got home safe. He would do the same for my mother when we stayed with her. Now, due to the current situation, I am not currently working, so we cannot afford an apartment at the moment. We live in a very expensive city, and since we have a young son, I have to stay home until school in our area reopens. Any advice on what I can do? Why are you defending your husband when he has done this before in the past? Been warned about it and did nothing to stop it is beyond me. Guess what? Your husband and his crappy stupid attitude have just cost yourselves your living space. My only advice is to start either looking for a lawyer to divorce his stupid arse, or to start looking for somewhere else to live. He brought this on both of you, and if you want someone to blame for your predicament, you need look no further than the imbecile you married. Edit. I need to make clear, I know my husband needs to leave. I am in no way arguing he doesn't. I was trying to paint a clear picture of him as a person, to know if I should go with him or no. He is a really good dad. Of the two of us, he is the better parent, but this behavior is unacceptable and inexcusable. I am in no way trying to undermine that. Also, I need to know how to handle my family. Through all this, I'm so embarrassed I can't even look at them. Edit 2. We also have to deal with the fact that my father, who owns the house, told my husband he didn't have to go unless he did it again, which I think is the actual worst reaction. Final edit. I am just going to state how all of this ended up. Now, I was unaware about the interactions my sister had with my parents, and it was bad, y'all, the same way my parents blew up on my husband, justifiably. They blew up on my sister for absolutely no reason. My mother, who had threatened to call the cops on my husband, had called my sister a homewrecker and told her she had no right to ruin my marriage. What the actual F? My father called my sister a drama queen and told her that if she wanted to go, she could. I would have never in my wildest dreams thought this was the road my parents would take, and now I feel awful for not handling this myself sooner. This morning when I got up, I told my father that we had to kick my husband out, that what he did was unacceptable and he needed to see repercussions for his actions. My father agreed, saying the only reason he didn't throw him out before was because he was scared I would go with him. I told him if I went, it would be an acceptance of his behavior, and he needed to feel the full weight of his actions. I then packed my husband's crap and put it on the front porch for when he got home. I texted him that he had to go, no excuses, and I told my sister that I had thrown out my husband, and that I would let her know when he had picked it all up, so she could come home. That's when she told me what our parents had said to her, which did not align at all with what they told me they had talked to her about. I am currently the only person my sister's on speaking terms with, and she has decided to move into her boyfriend's mom's house, and I agree with her decision 100%. Independently of what my husband did, my parents blaming her for victimization just made everything that much worse. I really wish she would have reached out to me yesterday so I could have put everyone in their place. But talking to her today really made me see what an absolute trash person I was.